shot. It never shot. So
How to Eat Fried Worms?
How to Eat Fried Worms?
I own it, so how did it not shoot?
Well, they didn't shoot mine, so my name's not on
it.
They shot something else.
That really is the key to enjoying your residuals, is to actually shoot the one that you wrote.
Yeah, that would. I don't think there were going to be a lot of residuals on that How to Eat Fried Worms. It wasn't a huge success. But so I was pigeonholed as that guy.
That's how nice John August is. That was a hit. That was translation. Fuck them. He's such a sweetheart. He's very diplomatic. There's a reason he's in the game as long as he's been in the game, because he's not like me going, fuck those guys. John goes, I don't know how much residuals there are something like
that. So much of the screenwriter's career is your ability to write 12-point courier and push it around on the page and make those words sound good. But a lot of it is just being able to sit in the room and make people feel happy and comfortable, and that you're going to be able to make the movie that they want to make.
Brian Koppelman said when him and his partner were rewriting Walking Tall with The Rock.
Oh yeah.
A studio executive came in and said they had a meeting and said, we think it's important that the stick has a personality. What's the most bananas note that you've received? And you don't have to name names, obviously, because you're of course, you're in the game. I'm doing a podcast from my fucking garage.
I can remember even a moment back from Go, you recognized sort of the disconnect, and we were going back to reshoot something for the third time. It was that stupid parking lot and the rain and all this stuff. And
when we got to take, she's not dead, we lift her up.
Yeah,
Smell the veggie burgers. Smell the veggie burgers. I'm not psychotic. Well, then grab her fucking arms.
Exactly that moment.
I remember the dialogue.
Yeah.
Wow. Great movie, John.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Well done.
Well done. So the studio execs came out to look at it because we were reshooting this for the third time, and they're like, now is this light enough? Where are the lights? And I point up to the sky, and the giant condor crane lights above, those are the lights. The things that are emitting light that are shining down, those are lights. They just had no idea how movies were made, and that's where we realized you're spending millions of dollars and have no sense of what actually happens.
It is fascinating, the people that get suits and desks in the studio system with opinions that have, like you said, that complete disconnect. We think the stick should, maybe the stick should have a personality. So they have to be, maybe she, like you said, maybe she could take her glasses off and be real cute.
Yeah, how many development executives does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
Does it have to be a light bulb?
Showbiz jokes.
Oh,
but you had to have a specific. I mean, when you're doing these are fantastic fairy tales. Mm-hmm. I mean, when a studio, maybe you have the insulation of a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, even in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Tim would refuse to meet with him, and so they'd call me and it's can't Charlie try harder to win? It's no, he really can't try harder to win. He's a kid who doesn't. He's a good kid. He shouldn't try hard to win this contest, and they just they focus on the wrong things. It's usually out of fear. They're afraid that something's going to go wrong, or that they're going to be blamed for something that was out of their control. So they're trying to insert themselves in a process. Is
it that, or is it fear that if they don't have an opinion, they won't have that desk?
That too. Someone's going to realize, oh, you know what? We could have made this movie completely without you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Charlie's Angels, and then Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, Big Fish, Titan AE, Corpse Bride, Frankenweenie.
Frankenweenie comes out in October.
I mean, these are enormous movies. Yeah. Do you pine for the days of going back to the small encapsulation of people?
I made a movie called The Nines. That I wrote and directed.
Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds and Melissa McCarthy.
It's a heavy movie, dude.
Yeah. Oh, great. And that was a chance to just sort of go back and experiment and do that stuff that we didn't go, and it was great to be able to do.
Why is it's an experiment more than a need? You're comfortable with these giant landscapes.
I'm comfortable with some big movies. There's smaller stuff I go for sometimes too, but also it's same way that you get cast in some parts and not in other parts. The little tiny movies aren't going to be able to pay me to do my job, and so I could take a huge pay cut and spend a year trying to do these tiny movies, but they may not happen either. So I have to, I always say my favorite genre of movie are movies that get made.
That's a great quote, dude.
So
that should be in quote books in the future.
So I will pursue the big movies if they're going to make the big movies, and if they start making smaller movies, I'll make those.
You don't seem to be cut from the same cloth as your brethren. It seems to be people go, I do these big movies and get a lot of money, and then I can do my little movies that I really like. You're a guy
the John Sayles argument, which I always find a little patronizing. I will whore myself out to the big system, and then I'll do, I'll write crap for them, and I'll write good stuff for me. It's why are you writing crap? even if I'm
for the check.
For the check. I hope I've never written deliberately crap. I hope I've never sort of just gone into like just do that horrible job just to get the paycheck. I try to do my best work on that stuff. Although sometimes it's really hard, or sometimes you just know you're killing yourself on this draft, and you're just going to stick it on a shelf and not do anything. That's the worst part.
And again, how do you know when you're done writing something? Especially things that large. Is it just a dedeline? Well, I guess it's June 5th. I guess I'm done.
God bless deadlines. The thing I'm running a thing for Fox. I'm running a thing for Fox right now, and it's like because I don't. It's a project I control myself, but because I don't really have a deadline, it's just taken so much longer.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to turn it in, so why turn it in?
Your website, johnaugust.com, is really incredible because it's set up to help screenwriters. And you have to be the first guy. I'm sure there's other people that have done it before you, but you're the guy with the biggest voice and the biggest platform. And I was on it today before you came in, and I'm looking at johnaugust.com, and there's like columns and like 35,000 comments and message boards, and like columns of pages of questions of how long should I wait before I call my agent to ask him again? Like the most elemental and cellular level of what if. Is that born out of your confusion when you began in the business?
100%. So I remember, growing up and I had all these questions and there was nowhere to go to. And so I always think of like if I were that 16-year-old kid in Des Moines and I had these questions, where would I go? I'd go to the internet and I would hope that somebody, who actually knew what he was talking about would answer the question. So I try to be that site. I try to be that answer.
How long have you had the site up?
8 years? Like a long time.
What impressed me about the site was there was no question small enough. Like literally like what's a margin? Like, or like the one that really stood out to me was like, how long should I wait before I call my agent again?
Yeah. I mean, it's that esoteric that like, there is an answer, but we got to find it someplace.
Yeah, there is no. My whole thing, I used to call constantly, like, how did it go? What did they say? And then one day I realized, I think it coincided with sobriety, where I realized they'll fucking call you if some shit happens. Your agent's not going to go, you know what? I started this sandwich. It was so good that I totally forgot to tell you they want you to come back and be put on tape for the director who's out of town. Like, they'll call you. Yeah. So, like, now I've gotten to the point where, like, if I leave an audition, when I walk out the door, it never happened. And it's just got to be out of my head because you obsess.
It's so easy to obsess. And like, I'll have a meeting and I'll sort of start pre-writing in my head, like the whole thing. And so I'll be ready to write and then it won't happen, or like the rights will fall apart or someone else will get the job. And that's the reality.
How much of it do you give away in the meeting when you meet? Now, do you meet the director, or do you meet the studio, or both, or it depends?
Most times, if I'm coming in on a project that's just from scratch, like there's no pre-existing material, I'm really talking to the producers and the studio executives.
Okay.
And there, it's like you're pitching. I always describe that kind of pitch as, imagine you just saw like the best movie ever, and you're trying to convince your best friend to go see it. So you're not giving them like really the whole story. You're just telling them like the setup details. This is the world. These are the characters. These are these awesome things that sort of happen at the start, and you get them along the way. But you don't tell them every last little beat. And then you can sort of expand out the pitch. If someone asks questions, you let them ask questions, and you have the answers, but you don't tell them everything right at the start.
How much of a volley is there? Because you have to know in your mind, the more you say, the more you're giving them to disagree with, and the more you're risking losing the gig. When you go, and there's squirrels on benches, and they go, this guy's fucking mental.
Yeah.
Or they go, oh my God, like you could either hit a home run with what you're about to, like each detail you give them, I would assume, John August, screenwriter, for those of you going, I can't tell on my phone who you're interviewing. You got to say it. Each detail you give the people sitting across from you is either going to be the home run or what costs you the gig, right?
Completely true.
So it's a high wire
audition. Like you could, I'll do that one more time, and then you make one choice that's different than the last time, and it's different. Right. You're reading the room, and
are you consciously thinking as you go, like just a spool of thread unraveling, like when at some point I got to undo this, or it's going to run out. That's a terrible analogy. Forgive my analogies. I'm so self-conscious. When you sit across from like a brilliant writer, you're like, what the fuck am I saying? You're spinning plates, and then you go, or also Charlie and Augustus. So then you take out another plate to spin, And then that's, for all you know, that's where they go, yeah, we don't want to do Augustus in this version.
Yeah.
Again, horrible analogy.
No, but
Let me start. I'm going to give it a third try. Ready?
I think I can answer your question even without the analogy.
Okay.
So, yes.
Thank you.
You're watching to see what they're responding to. And if they start to ask a question, you sort of figure out, not even that they really know what they want, but you figure out, like, what is it about what you're saying that's freaking them out or that they're not hearing. And then you try to respond to that in a general way that's not committing you to one course of action. So it's like...
it's like being a psychic.
It is. And so you're saying, like, yeah, I think it's really important that we balance the fantastical elements with the reality here. And this is how I think we're going to be showing the reality. And this is how I think we're going to be showing the fantastical stuff. You try to talk to them in the way that you just make them feel confident that you know what you're doing and that you will be able to incorporate what they feel like they need. It doesn't always work.
Well, sure. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you about that too. Yeah. How much has it happened to you, or as they ask you things like, well, couldn't it be X instead of Y, that even though that wasn't what you had in mind, do you, just to keep the gig, go, yeah, we could do X? I thought that on the way over, like what? Or are you a guy that goes, look, I'm not the guy for the job?
I tend to be, again, diplomatic. Like, I totally see what you're going for that, because you would get you X, Y, and Z. The challenge with that is it's also going to create these things, and and really, like 90% of the pitch I just gave you doesn't make any sense anymore, and it's completely horrible. The subtext is like, that's a horrible idea, but the actual words I'm saying is, this is why that's going to be challenging for us to implement. So,
great idea, but
so
you don't sell your soul.
So I don't sell my soul, and they get the opportunity.
I'm a big soul seller.
They get the opportunity for them to say, "Oh, I see why that wouldn't work." Like, "Oh yeah, that's a stupid idea." So if I'm giving them the opportunity to make them to take back their idea, if they choose to take back their idea,
I would love to be in a room in an invisible suit when that happens to you, because what you're essentially telling them is, "It's the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard," and I'll tell you why. But you're going, "Really cool." What you just said is, "Well, you know what? That is really cool." But it brings up these scenarios that maybe aren't going to be the easiest for you to follow through on. You take the onus off of yourself. You're playing these people like the chimps that they are.
So Will Smith in China. And so they flew me over to China to work on this Will Smith movie.
I think you meant the wrestler China. Like, you
China,
saw Will Smith
on China.
He was in China?
It was great. Like, one of your listeners can draw that for us.
Who was the top? China.
And so Will Smith is genuinely one of the smartest sort of movie people you can meet, but he also has the endurance that he will just keep going and going and going until you're way past where that good idea is, and now you've gone like way out into the brush. And so it's that delicate process. You don't want to say no, but you have to say yes, but these are the challenges that's going to present. Is it worth abandoning everything else that we love in order to go into the okay, so we're going to go into the brush.
When you're pitching and shooting ideas off of each other.
Which goes on for 8 hours.
Because he's so excited about it.
He's so excited. He's so smart, and he just has endurance that no normal human being has.
I'm going to go watch. I'm going to see Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go watch I never saw I Am Legend. But what you're telling me about Will Smith, now I'm fired up. Like, you know what? I loved Ali. Like, I got to get back in the Will Smith business. You're telling me he's the greatest guy.
Will Smith is great, and I met him while he was doing I Am Legend, and you can see that smartness is there. But it can be challenging to be the person who has to take all that and actually get it down onto paper, and that can be a challenge.
You're taking Big Fish and you're putting it on Broadway?
We are.
How do you I know how you co-write with writers. How do you co-write? Now there's a choreographer involved. Mm-hmm. Now there's a lyricist involved. Lipa, yeah. Lipa.
Andrew Lipa, yeah.
The British guy.
Yeah, he's technically British, but he's really more American.
All right. Well,
he has no accent, so it doesn't really seem British.
Oh, well, somebody's from England. I kind of call them English.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lipa.
So Andrew Lipa and Susan
Stroman.
I fucking actually had that right.
Yeah, you did.
You now suddenly you're not writing with a writer partner, and you don't have a writing partner.
No,
you're your own guy.
I've tried writing with a partner before, and I'm just a terrible creative roommate. I just can't share.
Bad collaborator.
I'm bad. I'm a bad literal roommate too, but I'm a bad collaborator. And
you're a bad roommate.
I'm a horrible roommate.
How so?
I was like, I'm not going to get too possessive about stuff. But I get kind of possessive about stuff. And also, as a screenwriter, I was always home all day, and so I'd always resent when the roommate would come back. It's like, well, I had this place to myself, and now you're back. But this is my place.
Yeah, let me hear what you have to say, because I just sat here alone with it for 8 hours. Now you just come in from Ralph's with your bowl of turkey chili going, you know what I think?
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you're co-writing with there's a choreographer that you have to sync up with.
Yeah.
That's like landing a jet on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. So I should explain that there's you can't see it, but there's like a red laser dot that's like sweeping over my body right now because I'm not supposed to talk too much about the musical right now.
You want to just take it out?
I could just say it in a very general sense that it's been amazing, but it's been just